everyone to Ask Steve Judd. And I'm so curious about the themes that are going to be opening up during 24, because I've got a feeling it's going to be quite an interesting year, and one that we all really need to pay attention to how we're feeling and what's going on for us. So Steve, how do we prepare for 24, and why do we need to prepare during 24 for what's coming up in the following years?
Extra thick underwear is a good idea. There's an acceleration of evolution happening, both in terms of consciousness on the planet, in our own personal and collective lives, and in the movements of the planets in the sky. And this is suggesting to me that the pace of life as we know it isn't going to be slowing down anytime soon. In fact, in the first few months of 2024, I expect a big increase in the levels of growth and acceleration in a number of fields, which can be both positive and challenging. So I would like to comment on some of those particular times.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
But I'd also like to look at the bigger picture for 24 and beyond. So perhaps it'd be appropriate perhaps to start there and then work backwards to the present. So
we're going to start with, should we go to jump to 26, 25, 24?
25, 26, yeah, just briefly.
Yeah.
Because as I'm sure many of the listeners and viewers will know by now, that's when the big changes are really going to be happening. Uranus moving into Gemini, Pluto moving properly into Aquarius, Neptune and Saturn moving together into Aries, and the big lineups that are going to be happening, focusing on the time around May, June 26, when Jupiter will move into Leo, and the patterns will be happening.
Yeah.
You know, this points to a kind of an acceleration and a pattern of potential evolution that has never, ever happened before and will probably never happen again. It is not just a once in a lifetime or even a once in a millennia. It is once in a civilization. It suggests that our apprenticeship and our training as a human race and species is coming to a close, and we're going to be tested on our viability and our fitness to continue evolving.
And this is all the preparation time right now, isn't it?
2024 is going to see a ratcheting up of a large number of issues, which will no doubt be disguised on the surface in terms of, I don't know, warfare, economics, moral outrage. But underlying it, there's a much deeper battle, if you like, going on, based around individual empowerment versus collective disempowerment and greed.
I also think that, yeah, greed's a big one, isn't it? But I also think there is this sort of sense of people choosing to wake up, or actually being encouraged to wake up through the unconscious, and those people that actually are remaining as they are. It may be a step too far for them at the moment. I believe all of us are on this journey of evolution, but I do feel over Christmas particularly, and I don't like particularly using the word portal, it kind of feels a bit new agey to me, but there did feel like something happened on around the winter solstice, and I wondered if you felt the same.
Stasis is not an option. You either evolve or you degenerate. The holding stasis. It's been okay in the past. It's not really okay in the future now. When you look at what the outer planets are doing over this coming year, yes, Pluto's moving into Aquarius soon, very soon. Neptune's fine. I mean, I've done a lot of readings for people for next year, and I've done a lot of videos for next year, which will be released in the next 48 hours. But it's surprising how quiet Saturn is over the coming year. But there are other things that are jumping in to take its place.
Do you think that Saturn is just helping us to dig down deep because it's in Pisces, it's trundling through Pisces. It's helping us to steady our religion, our spiritual beliefs, or encouraging us to dig down deep into that, or open up? What do you feel its job is doing that?
I feel that Pisces is quite misunderstood in many ways. Yes, it has a lot to do with artistry, compassion, empathy, intuition, the unconscious, the subconscious, the dream, the imaginal, the spiritual. But it also has a lot to do with the environment. And with Saturn in Pisces, I do feel that the inevitability of environmental degradation is going to become more and more in your face. And we're not going to be able to hide behind promises of what they're going to be doing in 10 years' time.
Which is too late anyway.
It's too late anyway. Yeah, if the die is cast. And I think that Saturn is going to help us ground ourselves in the reality of what's happening on the planet, rather than pretending everything's all right. But there are three very significant points. Yesterday, I did a big video on how the horoscope of now and this next year is so similar to that of September 1939, which was the declaration of World War II. Many people will say we've never been out of world wars. We've always been at war. Ireland, Israel, Vietnam, Korea, Ukraine, you know, it's always been at war. And the arms manufacturers have always ended up on top. However, looking at the chart for September 1939, Pluto in the sky now is opposite where it was in September 39. Neptune in the sky now is opposite where it was in September 39. Uranus in the sky now and through to April, May next year is in the same place as it was in September 1939. So we're seeing a kind of shadow echo of 1939 around us now, and the rise of dictatorial, quasi-fascist elements around the world, dictatorships, ruthlessness. And
do you think that's being expressed by Pluto being in the last few degrees of Capricorn, doing its kind of wrapping things up or bringing things to the surface because it is the last degrees? Or do you think there's something?
I do, but also I think it's an attempt by, shall we say, shadow forces or negativity to sort of set the scene for Pluto into Aquarius, because everything that Pluto touches has got both positive and challenging. And with Pluto moving into Aquarius, on the one hand, yes, it could be a time of fantastic developments over the next 10 years in global community. We could see the end of national borders, the end of national squabbles. We could see the emergence of a true global community. We could also see a dystopian future, which is almost like Judge Dredd in its mechanistic attitudes of just militaristic control, which would be awful.
I do see local communities coming together more, wanting to be autonomous.
Yes. I'm an optimist, so I remain hopeful.
I can't speak for other countries, but absolutely in the UK.
Yes. And I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realist. And I do believe that the coming few months are going to particularly influence the long-term future. In many ways, what happens in the first 4 or 5 months of 2024, first 4 months of 2024, is going to set the scene for the next 3 or 4 years. And the next 3 years are going to set the scene for the next number of generations, possibly the very long-term future, such as it is. So I see us as moving towards a critical point, a nexus point.
So, Steve, what can we do? I mean, we need to be aware of this critical point, but what would you say that we, each one of us, could do to just attune to it and do it the best, and do this, experience this critical point the best way we possibly can?
Well, that involves a lot of work on oneself, a lot of psychological self-analysis, the willingness to work with one's dark side and one's shadow, the willingness to examine one's conscience and to evaluate the way you deal with other people and the world. And that's a big ask of a lot of people who are so ingrained in the philosophies of the nuclear family, work, money, power, control, football, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
But
fear is the one thing. There's a huge thing of fear keeping us trapped in a place where we can't see out and we can't see the bigger picture.
false energy, aggravating resentment. There's a number of acronyms for fear.
Yeah.
But fear is when you're scared of something that you can't explain. And that's why psychology is such a valuable tool to us collectively and individually. If psychology and astrology were taught in schools, we'd see an end to warfare in less than 2 generations globally.
Having decent relationships.
And have decent relationships, exactly. There'd be no more control. There'd be total transparency and honesty.
And responsibility, self-responsibility, that's the big one for me.
Yes. And everyone would be in good relationships if they wanted to be.
Or productive or learning.
Yes, yes.
It would be different. It wouldn't be destructive. Yeah. I was just wondering, actually, when you're talking about that, whether Saturn going through Pisces could be helping with us with that, because Saturn,
I think so, yes.
Take responsibility.
Now, on that note, I do need to draw your attention to a couple of particular, well, 3 particular times. The one which is going to be the determining factor, I think, for the long-term future is going to be the period of around the 3rd to the 4th week of April, when Jupiter and Uranus come together at 21 degrees of Taurus. Now, I'm safe to say this because I know I'm coming from a solid astrological base. This is going to happen exactly on top of the sun sign position of both Israel and Palestine, because they were born there. Those countries came to life when the sun was at 21 degrees of Taurus. So one way or another, we're going to see some type of outcome of this situation by the end of April, which is then going to reverberate around the world, hopefully for the positive. Before that, on the 8th of April, we have the total eclipse of the sun over America. And the horoscope for America, which is going through its Pluto return, is worrisome. Because it feels as if America is fragmenting. But all big countries, all big conglomerates, corporations, if they get too big, they fragment. It's the nature of the beast. But more important, and yes, there's various T-squares and grand trines coming up and fingers of fate over the first few months of this year. It's a very busy time from now to the end of April. But there's one particular time that jumps out above all other. And it's not really that strong. It's something that happens every year. But this year, all of a sudden, all my antennae are just blaring out. It is the period of the 20th and the 21st of January this year. On the 20th of January, the sun will conjunct Pluto at 29 degrees 58 of Capricorn. And then immediately after that, an hour or so after that, the sun will move from Capricorn into Aquarius. And the next day, less than 12 hours after that conjunction, Pluto will move into Aquarius. Now, I know Pluto's moved into Aquarius before, come back into Capricorn. Now it's moving into Aquarius again, and then it'll stand still on retrograde and come back into Capricorn, and then finally move into Aquarius permanently at the end of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
But heliocentrically, where there's no retrogrades, viewed from the center of the sun, Pluto is moving into Aquarius around the 21st of January this year. So to me, Pluto is in Aquarius from that time onwards. And I strongly suspect that with the sun conjunct Pluto on the very cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius, that events around the 20th and the 21st of January are going to be very, very important as to what happens over the rest of the year. And I urge people at this time, A, deliberately choose not to let your buttons get pushed. B, don't be scared to intervene if necessary to defuse situations, because it could get nasty.
Yeah.
I consider it critical. I'm deliberately not using the nuclear word, which is a word that's often used with Pluto. But it's there in the background to a degree of one in 10.
It's quite high ratio.
Yeah, scary times. Scary times.
It is. We need to be ready for, just without panic, but just be alert and ready. Yeah.
Yes. On the one hand, we all have a great deal to look forward to. We have optimism, we have hope, we have faith, not in anyone else or anything else or any god or religion. Faith in not even faith in the future. Faith in ourselves. Just faith in general, and that's a marvelous thing.
It's almost like faith in faith, isn't it? That kind of feeling of,
yes,
yeah, something great.
Faithful.
Faith, full of faith, faithful.
Yes. Faith filled. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And at the same time, it always happens around this time. Over December and early January, a lot of people pass over, more so than most other times of the year. And as someone said to me recently, who's now literally on their way, they won't be around in a week's or two's time. I said, look, I've had a really good life, so I'm entitled to a good death. I've had a good life, I want a good death. And that idea of not being scared of the notion of endings or death, and of actually going into it with a sense of adventure as to, okay, what's next? Yeah. To me is oh, that's stimulating.
Isn't it? Actually, just very quickly, I'm doing a podcast called Embracing Your Mortality and interviewing Dr. Peter Fenwick, who's 89, and he's talking about his dying process, and it's going out on the 1st of January for anybody who's interested and he's so wonderful and has been working with end of life and death and dying all his life. So, and he's now talking about how he's preparing for his dying process.
Fascinating. Yeah. That's such an intelligent, mature, and it's educated way of dealing with one's life and death. Yeah. And we could all learn so much from that.
Definitely. Yes.
I mean, that guy sounds, I shall make an effort to listen to that one.
Yeah, very special.
These are intense. If there's one word I would use to summarize the next 18 weeks, it would be intense. But the optimist in me says, hang on, yeah, but looking at the astrology of this coming year, yes, there's other things coming up from May onwards. I mean, we've got Jupiter moving into Gemini. That should be fun. And the only difficult aspect in the second half of the year is a 9-month-long square from Jupiter to Saturn, but that kind of happens every 4 or 5 years, 6 years anyway. So I'm not worried by that. And seriously, from the beginning of May onwards, I think that 80% of the challenges of 2024 are over. So if we can get through to early May, I'll be singing and dancing and sort of going, okay, now we can seriously start preparing for the next couple of years.
Yes.
So to me, it's scary. But it's a mixture of trepidation and anticipation. But that's the nature of astrology. It doesn't tell you what will happen, it tells you what can and when.
The themes, the possible potential themes. Yeah.
Yeah. And the timing's connected with that.
Yeah. So we, as long as we can get through, well, we will get through until May in whatever way that happens. We're riding the wave at the moment, and then maybe the wave will relapse a bit during the rest of the year. So what do you feel it's preparing us for in 25, 26?
I think the underlying theme of it all is that we collectively and especially individually need to take a lot more responsibility for ourselves, not just for our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts, our actions, but the world around us.
Mm.
We choose to react to external stimulus. And, you know, the media spin on things is not going to suddenly turn around and become all lovely. They're going to continue trying to scare and disempower and terrorize because that's what sells papers or sells television. It's pretty difficult when you go on any of the streaming channels these days to find a good movie that doesn't have lots of guns in it.
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth? And at the end of the day, it's all down to
Steve, to read a headline without a disaster word involved. It's incredible. I was counting them up the other day. I was looking through my little iPad on the news, and I was counting up all the negative words, all the headlines. Every single headline had a word associated with horrible death, disaster, or
sells. It
tragic.
sells. Am I being cynical in saying that it sells? Probably.
It's just for everybody. Just check it out. Just check out those headlines and spot that disaster word. It's shocking what the media is feeding us.
I was trying to put myself in a position last night of, I don't know, a being from Arcturus or Sirius or Canopus who had faster than light travel and was just scouting out our solar system and was observing us from above and commenting back to their superiors on our state of evolution. And they'd be saying, well, look, they enjoy killing each other. They enjoy beating each other up according to gender or color. They enjoy eating.
Starving without running water.
Half the world are starving without any nutrition or water, and the other half are eating lots of dead animals for fun.
And there's huge obesity issues on the other side of the world.
And these interstellar beings will be looking at us and going, yes, but they also have tremendous potential. They have the potential for joy,
yes,
hope, laughter. And this is when I say there's a nexus point coming. And that nexus point at the moment, I'm looking at early 26, about 27 months, 26, 27 months from now. So the countdown's on.
What do you mean by the nexus point? Can you just describe that a bit more?
Imagine, got it here. It was in my Christmas cracker.
Yep.
A little pencil sharpener.
Oh, that's so cute.
Right, there's the hole. And you put the pencil in and it goes down to a narrow point at the end. We're now a long way in that hole and we're trying desperately to get to that hole at the very end where we can squeeze through this. Now it's like the birth canal, squeeze through this narrow aperture and then burst into glory or condense into some homogeneous lump. And there's a paradox. I noticed that this pencil sharpener does not have a hole in the bottom. Oops. Whoops. But one way or another, the die is cast by the spring of 26. And it's not so much it'd be easy to say we've got to take everyone with us. It'd be easy to say it's all about the collective responsibility and to then seek blame elsewhere. No. One world, one planet, 8 billion different worlds. We're all responsible for our perception and the way we choose to see things. And individually, we can choose from a realistic perspective to see the joy, to bring the laughter, to bring the love. And by doing that, we spread it around and it becomes contagious. And that's perhaps our best hope. Sounds simplistic.
But it's the
Or
hardest journey ever, isn't it?
keep buying the media, keep empowering the gun sellers.
Yeah, it's absolutely, we have to take responsibility for ourselves now and just be collective and very much personally. It starts with the person anyway. The person.
It starts and ends
Yeah.
with the person, with you, the individual.
So Steve, just to wrap this video up, is there anything else that you feel is a burning issue that you want to say to everyone as we, I have a feeling, I was saying this to somebody else actually, that, you know, it's kind of time to buckle up. It's a full-on wave that we're riding right now, collectively and individually, and it's...
Most of the people watching this are going to be considerably younger than you and I. Okay, so their perception of the world is going to be different to ours. We were brought up being told that the bomb was going to drop and how to hide under the table. And that was a daily theme when we were children. We could die tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we've got that ingrained into our consciousness. The children of today, the 20, the 30-year-olds, even the early 40-year-olds do not have that consciousness. So they will see this and think, oh no, they're barking, they're bonkers. It depends on your perception, how you choose to see the world. But collectively and individually, if we all view the last 30 to 40 years, look how much we've changed in the last 30 to 40 years compared to all of the centuries and millennia before that. The escalation, the acceleration of the last few decades is still moving forward exponentially. And it is pushing us to a magnet, a point in the future that is attracting us forward. There is a sense of revelation here and hope. Keep hold of that.
Yeah. Faith and hope. And with that, we'll draw this video to a close and we'll see everyone next time. And all we can say is thanks for listening and have a great new year.
See you next year.